Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Am I the Jerk? Our first post is by Choice Disastrous. Am I the jerk for telling my wife off after getting our daughter to cut her hair off, even after being told not to? My wife is currently battling cancer, and one of the things she's told me she's struggling with the most was losing her hair. She's been given a near 100% chance of survival since we caught it early, but the chemotherapy has destroyed her hair anyway, and she had to shave what was left of it off a few weeks ago. Not long after that, she suggested we attempt to get our 17-year-old daughter Anna to do so as well. Anna has very long hair that she puts a lot of care into, so I felt it was appropriate to ask her in private if she would be willing to do such a thing. She told me that she didn't want to cut her hair, and I figured that was the end of that. However, yesterday, they came home from a girls' shopping trip, something they do every so often, and Anna had a buzzed haircut. That struck me as odd after what she'd said. So after dinner, I talked to her and she told me that my wife had said she would never forgive Anna if she didn't show her support by buzzing her head. I asked her if she was happy about it, and she said that she wasn't. When I went to bed, I brought it up with my wife and she said it was Anna's choice to or not. I just told her how I'd see the situation. I told her off, saying she needed to respect Anna's personal choices and that a 17-year-old girl being against shaving her head wasn't exactly out of the ordinary. However, my wife simply said it was to show support for her. I've been sleeping on the couch since. I love my wife and I understand that she's going through something traumatic. However, her attitude comes off as very manipulative to me, and that's not behavior I feel I can personally accept. I'm not sure if I can move past this to continue the relationship. Am I the jerk? Our next post is by Leslie Mexi. Am I the jerk for not telling my wife just how much my late wife left our children? I was married to Sammy for 8 years, and we had 2 children together, Delaney, now 18F, and Finn, now 17M. Sammy had been born with a serious heart defect that was left undiagnosed for many years. It was during her pregnancy with our daughter where she learned about this, though some health issues over her life had been a sign that was ignored by doctors. During her pregnancy with our son, she went into total heart failure, and between one thing or another, she realized she would not get another heart in time. Sammy came into money a few years before her death. We had always talked about that going toward our kids' college expenses. When she realized it was unlikely she would live long enough to see them past kindergarten and first grade, she asked me how I would feel about her parents being in charge of the money. My family are not good people, and our concern was always if the money was left with me and something happened to me, my family would find a way to get their greedy paws on it. They would have spent that money without a second thought for their grandchildren, niece, nephew, and in all likelihood would have left them with nothing. So I said yes. Sammy's death came way too soon, but she was peaceful in the end. 4 years later, I met my current wife, Nat, and after a 2-year relationship, we got married. Nat has 2 girls who are 14 and 12. When Nat and I sat down to discuss finances, college funds, etc., I told her that Sammy had left our kids some money, never disclosing exactly how much, and just mentioned that we would not need to save for the kids' college. It was different with her girls. Her ex, their father, had stolen the money Nat saved for the girls, so we started saving together. But it was not a lot. When Delaney told me she wanted to go to college and that she was strongly considering community college, I sat both her and Finn down and told them about the money. I told her it was not to pressure her, but if she wanted to go away for college, there was money available. Delaney chose to keep the money for a house in the future, and Finn mentioned he would likely do the same with his share. Delaney mentioned it in front of Nat over the summer, and Nat was confused by her comment about it buying a house. She asked how much money it was, and she was furious with me when Delaney told her. She said I should have disclosed just how much my kids had access to. I asked her why. It was their money. It was nothing to do with her. She said I was too vague and I should trust her as my wife. This has been a tension between us since. Am I the jerk? Garmin7 writes down in the comments below, if anything, Nat should be happy that thanks to this inheritance, you can save money solely for her children's college fund. Imagine having to split your saving between 4 kids, not 2. Our next post is by Witty Performance. Am I the jerk for leaving my wife at a party, going away solo when she was making me late? My 28 wife, 27, graduated medical school in 2021. They had a graduation party since everyone was vaccinated, but it was pretty small due to a recent outbreak there. You could only bring 1 guest, and you had to socially distance again. Her medical school decided to invite the pandemic graduates to this year's graduation event. They planned this all out pretty last minute, only giving 3 weeks notice that it was happening. But my wife was very excited about it. She gets paid crumbs and works long hours as a resident, so I get why she wanted to relax and have fun. The issue is that I had a huge work trip the next day that had been planned for months. I don't travel a lot for work, so they went all out to make this comfortable, and I had a lot riding on it. If I didn't do well, I would probably be fired, but if I did well, there were 2 open positions I could be promoted to. My wife wanted to come with me, so my company comped her flight, and we were going to make a vacation out of it after my presentations. We were flying out the night of the party to ensure I made it on time for the meetings the next day. I told my wife we shouldn't go to the redo event since we had to fly out and it would be very tight. She insisted we go since the party started at 3 p.m. and our flight left at 9 p.m. But the gala was 1.5 hours away from the airport. We made a plan to leave at 5:30 p.m., pack everything in our car beforehand, so we could go straight to the airport. But by 5:30, she just started saying goodbye. I told her we needed to leave ASAP, but she said no, we don't have to be 2 hours early for our flight, etc. Around 6 p.m. this guy from med school, who had a crush and asked her out multiple times, grabbed her hand and pulled her to another table. I went up to them and told him he needed to back off. He said I needed to treat her better and let her enjoy herself. I looked at my wife, but she ignored me. At that point, I decided I wasn't going to try and convince her to stick to her word anymore. I told her I was leaving for the airport and took our car. There was a ton of traffic and security was a mess, so I only had a few minutes to spare before getting on the plane. She texted me horrible things. I never responded or engaged, but she kept texting me how I was horrible and don't understand what it's like to have COVID ruin a huge moment for you. I disagree. She still had a graduation party. It's not my fault she didn't get to dance. I don't see what the huge deal was, and conversely think she didn't understand that this would cost me my job if I missed the flight. And since I make up around 70% of our income in a high cost of living area, we would essentially be homeless. We've been on tense terms since this happened in June. She brings it up a lot and is recommending therapy so I can learn how to behave in a marriage, but I don't think we need it since she's the one who caused this whole problem in the first place and should take accountability for that first. But am I way off here? Am I the jerk? Our next post is by George McMintee. Would I be the jerk if I don't change my son's name even though it may cause him to lose an inheritance? I, 24, got pregnant while I was taking a gap year traveling. I met an older guy, nothing gross. I was 19, he was 23. We had fun. I was working in a bar to make money while I explored his city. When I got pregnant, he lost interest really quickly. I understood, but I am pro-choice, and I chose not to terminate. I went home and had my son. I also made sure to get child support. He could afford it. He did fight it though. I had to prove paternity and everything. Through that, his parents found out. They are well off. They have met my son and they truly do seem to love him. They have provided gifts for his birthday and Christmas. They helped me with extra money so I could complete my university without going into debt. They have taken us on vacation with them so they could spend time with him. They aren't my biggest fans, but we are cordial to each other. 3 months ago, my son's father passed away. He got drunk at his bachelor party, tripped on the sidewalk, and hit his head. And that was all she wrote. My son and I attended the funeral. We spent a week in that city so his grandparents could see him. They approached me with an offer. They had no other children or grandchildren. Their son was only 28, so he had lots of time to provide them legitimate kids. They did not say this, I'm just assuming, so they never thought about my son's name. They said that if I changed his surname to theirs legally, they would make him their primary heir. I think this is dumb. He is their only grandchild, and they would deny him an inheritance because of his last name. I said I would consider it to be polite, and have left it at that. I actually have a pretty good life as it is. My family has been very supportive, and because of the whole court thing, my son's father had to have life insurance with him as the beneficiary. Would it be nice for my kid to get a big sum of money? Yes. Do I want him to have the surname of a man who didn't want him, see him, or love him? No. I have been talking to my family about it, and a few of them think I'm being an asshole for giving up this kind of money for my son. It is generational wealth, and I'm making the decision based on emotion. I think they are assholes for thinking money is the only thing that matters. I think I will tell my son's grandparents that they can talk to him about it when he is 16. He will be old enough to understand the implications, but young enough not to be tied professionally to his last name. Drunk615 writes in the comments, "You are the jerk. F that dude, but also you're kinda screwing your kid by not changing the name. That money is your child's future, and guess what? They'll probably want it regardless of y'all's beef. If they find out, that could also wreck y'all's relationship." Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.